Welcome back to Burn the Ship, the podcast where we connect entrepreneurs to professionals to help you go all in on your business. I'm your host, Ezra Brown. And without further ado, I'm going to allow my guest to introduce himself.
Hi, everybody. I'm James Phetteplace. I have my own business, which is Erawatech. The tagline is "Make peace with technology," and I've been in the tech space for 28 years or more.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So, James, kind of tell me, with Aerotech and the software space, tech space in general, kind of how did you kind of get into that? What's it been like? Kind of tell me how you got into it.
Sure. Well, I fell into it. I started as a temp for a week at a company that I ended up staying with for almost 9 years.
Dang.
And right. So at the time, I was a student and I was also working at the same time to try to get through school.
Right.
So many of us out there have experienced that, right? And so it was just by chance that working through a temp agency, I ended up working at a place that I was impressed with, and they also helped me with my journey in terms of like finishing school and things like that. And they always just
Right.
gave me tons of opportunities. So I was constantly getting set outside of my own comfort zone to learn new things. And
Right.
I would say that that really set me off into the tech space.
That's awesome. So, kind of, tech's definitely somewhere you fell into it, which is awesome. But were you going to school for tech, like when you were in school?
No, I was studying sociology.
That's
And
a that's a massive difference.
it is and it isn't. So
Yeah.
the part of sociology that I was involved with was statistics, so
Okay.
parametric methods,
Okay.
and you have to use technology
Right.
to fully explore that, and all the tools were there. And I just happened to be working with people in that space. It was a startup company. We were developing software to support what are called special needs populations. So, like
Uh-huh.
foster and adoptive care, long-term medical care, people with physical needs, mental health needs. So I had PhD mental health specialists on one side of me and computer scientists on the other side of me, and I was in between, kind of doing the grunt work. So I just picked up everything. So I just was a sponge. I just tried to soak up as much as I possibly could from all of those amazing influences.
That's awesome. Yeah, no, that's definitely a cool little ride. But now, how did you become into the entrepreneur space? That's one of its own. That's not an easy thing to do. Not really a ledge that most people want to jump off of. They don't want to leave that comfort.
That's true. And to be honest, this is the third time I've tried in my lifetime to kind of strike out on my own, right?
Yeah,
Third's the
yeah,
charm. So here I am. I've had the benefit of a long career working as a director of IT in various spaces. So at one place, which was a food cooperative here where I live in Madison, Wisconsin,
hmm,
when I started, it was 70, 80 employees. It was my office was in a loading dock. So, and this is Wisconsin, right? So, like, if the door
it's
is
cold.
open, it's cold. Like the air. So I'm
Right?
like
No, it's
in
cold. Yeah, it's cold here right now, and I could only imagine what it is up there.
exactly. So I was like wearing fingerless gloves, trying to work at this computer station with a CRT blurry monitor.
Right.
So we just had like one retail space, one offsite space. I advanced to the role of director of IT. And by the time I left, 11 years later, that organization was three retail sites, two offsite facilities, and over 430 employees.
That's awesome.
So during that time, that's where I really learned a lot. And I also um, sought out additional certifications, education, and things like that while I was in that role.
Yeah,
And
that's
that
awesome.
includes,
That's awesome.
project management and professional trainer certification and things like that.
That's sweet. So you kind of got a taste of how what it looked like for you to go in and do it. That's awesome.
Absolutely
So
more than a taste.
yeah, yeah, you got a full plate full. But what would you say has kind of been like that since transitioning through that and kind of knowing what it looks like to do all that? What was kind of your strength your superpower kind of when you got into it, when you got into being an entrepreneur?
So my superpower was my experience, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I had again, greatly benefited from wonderful working relationships with people that I've been with over the years. And when I went into the entrepreneurial space, I already had a lot of the skill sets that I would need to run a
Right.
business. So I understood the finance aspect of it because I've been working with finance teams for years in terms of supporting their needs on IT. And that's the benefit of being in IT is that we're everywhere. We have to
Right.
be, you know.
Right.
So
You're like a
if
Swiss Army knife in that, in when you're in that side.
you got it. And that's actually part of my personal brand is I will often refer to myself as a Swiss Army knife
That's
or a
awesome.
multi-tool.
That's awesome.
So yeah, being in IT and being in a role where I was overseeing so many different systems and had been involved in so many organizations, I had the benefit of that generalist approach where
Right.
I had picked up this and that from all of those spheres. And so, yeah, when I went into running my own business, I knew that I needed a GL. I needed to handle all of the accounting aspects of things. I knew that um, I, I had to have a CRM so that I could manage my client relationships. All of those tools were things that I knew I would need to have and put in
Yeah.
place. So, and those were the things I honestly didn't have the first two times that I tried to go and work on my own.
Right. And then kind of what does that day to day look like for you now with your newest endeavor? You know, kind of what is that day to day looking like?
Right. So I have been very institutionalized, so to speak, over the years in that I've been working for other businesses, steady income, knew exactly when that paycheck was going to come, having
Right.
an insurance carrier, all of those things were taken care of for me. Now, every
Right.
day is um, I have to be a lion out there, right? I cannot
Right.
sit back. So every day when I start, I have already prioritized the work the day before. I use project management software and closely track my tasks and prioritize them. So you have to basically be your own best boss when
Right.
you're in the entrepreneurial space. No one is
Absolutely.
going to give you a second chance in that regard. You have to
Absolutely.
nail it. So every day I try to just jump right out of the gate and stick to my priorities, which it can be difficult because the space that I'm in, there's lots of cool stuff. Like I want to read all the tech articles out there. I want to read all the trade magazines. I want to play with the new tech toys, so to speak.
Right.
So there are a lot of potential distractions. So I have to get up at the same time every day. Dress. Even though I work from home, I have to
Yeah.
dress like I'm going to work, and I have to maintain a discipline,
Right.
and that discipline is what carries me through.
Absolutely.
That's a
No,
little bit of what my day is like.
that's yeah, that's true. That's definitely though, because it stands still with anything you do in life's got to be disciplined to do it, or it's, I mean,
Right.
it's only going to go as far as you want it to go. You know what I mean? Or as far as you
E-
work it to go.
Exactly.
Essentially, you reap what you sow, is
Yeah.
what I believe. But
Exactly.
kind of with this, especially starting up in third journey in it, what would you say is like your best way of growing your business currently? What are you kind of doing to grow that business?
Great. So I'm in an interesting place now with business growth. When I first started, I had the idea of building an agency, and so it wouldn't be just me. I would have
Right.
employees and a physical location other than my home office. But I evolved that concept over time. Now I'm actually comfortable working from home and building more strategic partnerships
Yeah.
with other experts in their field. I'm used to being a director of IT and be able to hire people and pull them into particular roles to
R-
handle those specialized kind of skills
right.
that I don't have or have the time to do, nor is it a priority for my role.
Right.
So, so the biggest thing that I have done to increase my business is actually to build on those strategic partnerships. So I work with my strongest strategic partnership is with somebody who is strong in graphic design, which is not necessarily my strongest suit. I'm more of a tech nerd. I like developing. I like writing code.
Right.
I just started building a relationship with somebody who handles social media scheduling. And that is something that most of my clients really need because the core of my business is web design and development and managed hosting.
Right.
So to grow my business, I started doing this as a side gig,
Yeah.
and all of the income that came in through this business went right back into the business.
Yeah.
So that was critical for me before I could go and do this just full time without, this being a side gig. This is my main
Right.
gig.
Right.
So I had to be ready. And while I was working in terms of growing my client base, the biggest factor was word of mouth. So I had previous business relationships. I communicated with a lot of those folks who I knew already needed websites or needed the services that I was providing. And
Right.
then we worked out deals where it was like, I can help you out this way, I can give you a really good deal on a website. If you help me out in terms of getting the word out about what I can do for other businesses, other individuals.
Yeah.
And so that in itself was kind of strategic partnerships with
Right.
my original clients.
Right.
So those were, I would say, the two biggest factors. Building those strategic partnerships, kind of moving away from the model of having like a physical agency and having direct employees, as
Right.
well as, again, absolutely investing right back into the business for at least the first 2 years.
Yeah, absolutely. Because then you guys are, you're getting that ROI on your time, and then you're also building a big network of people that can help you whenever. Yeah, for sure.
Ex-
It's
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
whenever you
And
get that sphere together, you can become a powerful thing when you're working well together.
you got it. And you're stronger together, especially
Absolutely.
if you're working with local businesses. So I work across the country, and I have clients as well in like Canada and also in the UK. Um, However, most of my clients are local. So I have tried to connect with local business associations. There's also a buy local organization that I've also kind of partnered with, and a lot of leads come through those connections as well. But again, I've tried to reach out and connect with a lot of local providers who are in the same space, and we
Right.
and we work together.
Right. That's awesome. What's kind of been the hardest thing for you? That's everybody struggles whenever they start, but what's kind of been the hardest thing for you as a business owner, running your own business?
Well, the hardest thing I think is really getting away from getting used to a really steady revenue stream. When you're in the entrepreneurial space and you're on your own, especially like a solopreneur,
Right.
there is going to be the ups and downs of your revenue. You're not going to be able to forecast. You don't have any forecasting models because you don't really have any data yet to be able to
Right.
forecast, what your revenue is going to be like. So you have to be prepared for the rainy days because they're going to be
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
And then also to not get too excited when it's the other direction, where, wow, there's so much business coming in. I'm doing great. I'm gonna go out and invest in some like expensive infrastructure or software licenses or things like that, because the next month, the next 3 months might not be as rosy. So I
Right.
think it's really tempering yourself to and looking at your expectations and being very
Yeah.
realistic about those expectations.
Absolutely. No, yeah, that makes sense though, and that's something that, I don't see it on that side because I'm not in the entrepreneur space yet. I mean, essentially, I run my own book of business, but somebody else does the taxes and stuff for me
Right.
on that side, you know.
Right.
So it's a
Right.
little different on this side, but I hear that a ton, and that does make sense because you know what I mean. You got to know where that cash flow is. You got to know, so like you said, whenever before you burnt the ship, you made sure that you could do it. You know what I mean? So you had the revenue for
Right.
the business, but you also need a revenue for your pocket to make sure you could still put in the business too.
You
That
got it.
makes
And
sense.
then, also, depending on what your situation is, I have a family.
Yeah.
I have a wife, I have a daughter. They had to be on board
Right.
before I did this.
Yeah.
And they were not. So I took my time.
Hmm.
It was important for me to gain their trust and
Yeah.
to show them that I can do this.
Yeah.
Um, and
And
eventually.
depending on the age, and
Yeah.
depending on the age of your daughter, yeah, you had to hear it from her too.
Right, right. She's
Exactly, you
young.
know.
She's 4.5 now,
Yeah,
but
yeah. So see, yeah, see, I was about to say if she's about to be a teen, then it's a little bit more challenging because then you gotta buy her a car, you gotta do this, all that stuff. But
sure, sure.
but on that
But
side of it, yeah, I guess
yeah,
yeah, you just had to deal with the wife, huh? Take care of them.
I mean, it's more about this is a partnership. So not
Yeah, absolutely.
I think of it that way.
Yeah,
Her voice matters.
yeah,
I'm transparent with my business concerns 100% with my partner, and she is 100% behind me.
that's
And that
awesome.
definitely is making that's probably the at least the number three factor on being able to do this independently.
Absolutely, no, I hear that. That's awesome because you got to be transparent with them if or it's something's gonna fall if your personal life's not going right, your business can't go right.
Absolutely.
But that is awesome. I appreciate you sharing that with us. What's kind of what are you looking forward to most? You get to say we look back from 5 years from now, you got this thing up and running, real tight ship. What is your end goal for this?
Well, that goes back to my branding and to the tagline that I have, which is make peace with technology. My goal is there's several layers to it, I should say. I have several goals. My biggest goal is really to help locally as well as nationally
Yeah,
for organizations and individuals who don't necessarily have the a positive reaction to technology, right?
right.
When technology doesn't work for you and it kind of works against you,
Yeah,
it's a horrible feeling. And some people, I would even argue, have a trauma response to technology.
yeah.
So,
I do. I did for so long before I was in college. It's because
okay,
I'd
see,
never been taught to use it. So that makes sense.
yes. And then when those of us who are in the tech space, who are responsible for providing that training and giving you learning opportunities, are not the best at that. We aren't
Yeah,
necessarily, we don't meet people where they're at often enough, in my opinion.
right.
And there's also negative, I think, opinions, judgment about people who are in IT, who are too techy and don't have strong social skills and
Yeah,
might be rude. And so that is my big, you know, top level goal is that I want to change that. I'm trying to
right.
flip the script on how technology is used, perceived, and how people are trained on it so that
Yeah,
you're comfortable with it. It should be
yeah.
just another tool in your toolkit. It
Man,
shouldn't give you
man.
a sense of like you feel rage and you need to throw your monitor out the window. Like that is what I'm trying to work against.
You
So
just made
that's
a
my
light
big
bulb
picture.
flicker in my head. That light bulb just flickered in my head. That's awesome because I've got friends that write code and do a bunch of tech stuff, especially because of my generation. Like it was like the thing, go into coding, whatever. Because just you make really good money out of school. You go work for Home Depot or somewhere like that,
Right.
make great
Right.
money, good benefits, taken care of. But um, they always just explain it. I've never really had somebody say, put it in the same terms that you did because it's like that tech trauma of doing it. If you didn't know how to do it, people stay away from it and they try to forever. And I sell tech stuff essentially. I sell merchant service credit card processing. It's techie,
Right.
So and we're a lot on the back end side of online payments and doing API stuff. So it's techie as heck. So I
Exactly.
understand your language minimally, just enough to where I can talk about it a little bit, but not really a ton. But that made it go so easy. I've never heard of software like anybody in software put it that way, and that makes sense. That's James. I like it. I'm gonna have to coin it too.
Oh, great. Yeah, but truly I have um I've seen it in so many times. So
Right.
especially when I was a director of IT, when I was hiring for people in, level one tech roles,
Yeah.
primarily they were going to be supporting people.
Right.
And this was a grocery store.
Hmm.
So you're going to be interacting with people who are cashiers, supervisors, deli clerks, people working in the warehouse. Like you're going to work with people in all of these different kinds of roles. And they're not necessarily going to have any tech background.
Right.
So, and they need to use tech to get their work done.
Right.
for example, if you're a buyer, you have to use technology to make your orders. You have to interface with software to communicate with your suppliers and all of that.
Yep.
So I made it clear like that's our job. Our job
Right.
is to make sure that they do their job well. We should be approaching them and asking them, what can I do to make you successful?
Right.
And I'm going to try to help you pick the right and use the right tech tools to get there.
Yeah.
And no judgment about where you're at
Right.
in those skills. No judgment.
Right.
And so I hired for those tech roles. I hired for customer service number one, and I mean
Right.
like internal customer service.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I can teach you the tech. That's not a problem. I need you to have strong customer service skills, and I need you to make people feel like they don't just they're not just welcome at this organization, they belong here.
Right.
And we're not going to make you feel bad because you didn't come in with tech skills. Like
Yeah.
so that's generally what has inspired me to work on my own. And I work a lot with nonprofit organizations, individuals who are like authors and artists.
Yeah.
I work with concrete contractors. I work with a really wide array of folks, and for all of them, it's my goal to meet them where they're at and help them be successful in what they do. And that is the bottom line. That's my hope for what I'm doing with this business, in
Right.
terms of revenue, future revenue, what the size of the organization, if I have to hire, et cetera. Those to me are less important than the actual mission and vision of the organization. Everything needs to tie back to what that mission is. And
Right.
my mission is to make peace with technology.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's awesome. I love that. Um, customer service is super important too because we're big on it here. That's the biggest thing in our industry is nobody has it. It's a 1-800 number you call and wait hours. It's right
Right.
there, like 50 feet out this window through this wall over here. There's people over there answering phone calls, right? Well, if they have them, but just typical. If you get them, what you do, it's credit card processing. There's always a problem.
And I've
Always.
been there. I've
Yeah.
in grocery as the director of IT. Of course, I was in charge of the point of sale system, and not just point of sale. We also brought in e-commerce, and it had to
Mm-hmm.
interface with that point of sale system.
Yeah.
And the number one hardware that would fail on me at the point of sale was always the credit card processing uh, hardware.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
always had to have lots of backup, lots and lots
Uh-huh.
of backup for those
Always.
devices.
And if you're not a big merchant, they don't give you the time of day. They give you a little bit. And then if you're one of their $1 million a month people, then guess who? They'll take that phone call immediately. But if you're
You got
doing
it.
100K, if you're doing 100K, you're waiting 5 minutes. You're doing 50K, you're waiting 10 minutes. That's just kind of how our industry is. But that's something's relatable. But no, what would you say is your favorite part? In tech of what you do. What is the favorite part of what you do?
I love working with my clients. I mean, that might sound nerdy or cheesy, but it's true. Like
Yeah.
so an example is I have a client who needed an e-commerce site, and they're just working on their own and also with some family members.
Yeah.
And every time I get to work with them, it's a joy because I know that we're on the same page. We trust and believe in each other, and when they learn something new, they're excited about it.
Yeah.
If I can give them a tool to make it their work easier, they love it. Um, there's just so much, and so in this space, I get to choose who I work with.
Right.
And that has never been true for anywhere else I've worked.
Uh-huh.
Um, and I and I'm trying to choose to work with the organizations that I believe in.
Yeah.
I believe in small businesses and entrepreneurs. I think that's the engine of our economy. I
Right.
believe in charitable nonprofits, and
Right.
that is a large part of my client base is working with nonprofits. And I just happen to know how to set up a website for those
Yeah.
nonprofits, so
Right.
they can accept donations, so they can reach out to their clients
Yeah.
during like Giving Tuesday and things like
Yeah.
that. So knowing those businesses, working with them directly, and the joy that I see when something
Yeah.
works for them, it's the best.
We're helpers at heart, and it sounds like you're doing the right things over there. That's awesome.
And
And
two,
then what would you say? Like one of the last things I always ask everybody is kind of what it was like for you to burn the ship. You know, what's been that emotion? You know, this is your newest endeavor, but what was it like the first time you did it? Was it the same feeling you got this time?
I would say that it was a rush for me leading up to it.
Yeah,
That I knew it was coming. You know, turning in my notice where I had been working,
yeah,
making sure to a certain extent I wasn't burning that ship with them because I like to hedge my bets, you know. But
yeah.
and but no, I did. I was turning away, a six-figure job that I was really good at.
Right.
Right, it was the easy path. So I chose the hard path, and you have to
Make
be
your own.
realistic. When you're choosing the hard path, you're going to have hard days.
Yeah.
So, I've had it was glorious to be able to realize, whoa, I'm on my own. This is my business.
Right.
Oh, oh no, also at
Yeah.
the same time.
Right. Right.
So,
Right. Right.
I think you have to just be prepared for all the emotions that come with it. Um, and you'll be okay. You have to I think you have to have a long-term approach to these kind of
Right.
things and really stick with it, even through the hard knocks that are going to come.
Absolutely can't look in the rear view when the windshield's this much bigger.
That's right.
But nah, James, thank you so much for coming and joining first and foremost. But also, tell the people, I'm gonna leave you to give them the last word.
Oh, well, again, thank you so much for the opportunity. If
Absolutely.
you are out there hoping to start your own business, do your research, do your homework, and be as prepared as possible. So when that first day comes, you are ready.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you guys and burn the ship.